Welcome to the Every.Thing.After podcast. And once again, thanks to my friend Scott Paris for the use of his song Knee Jerk as our theme song.
You're welcome. You're very, very welcome.
Oh, hey, Scott.
Hello.
Scott, you're here.
I thought I'd drop by. Hope that's okay.
Yeah, man. Anytime, of course. Have you got Harry with you? That's what I want to know.
Harry travels with me all the time. Never leaves my side.
That's great. We'll meet Harry here in just a minute. The infamous Harry. But Scott here is a friend of mine. We've known each other for a few years now. He actually taught my daughter and I a guitar class some time back. I will say that we never tried to show TikTok videos during those guitar classes either. I'm proud to say that.
That's true. That's very
we were
true.
very focused. We were more focused than maybe some of your other students were. Just immediately just get impressed with Scott. Ended up seeing him at a number of local shows here. Just kind of took a nosedive into all of his music library. He's been a musician since you were 12 years old, Scott. I read that. You're 12 years old. You've been in since you were 12 years old. You've been in bands, and bands with just. I know you don't think that you're great at naming bands, but some really creative names of some bands here. Like, of course, the ones I'm most familiar with because they were more active when I met you and the years after. Broken Transmitter.
Yes.
You were in Assorted Vagabonds. Interesting abbreviation of that appears in a text that we'll talk about here in a minute. And so tell us, so how many bands have you been in, Scott, since you were 12 years old?
Oh my God, I've never counted. That's a daunting number. Easily a dozen.
Yeah,
I'd say not facetiously, easily a dozen. If I had to write them all down on paper.
And the one that you're still pretty active with now is Imaginary Cookies.
Yeah, that's the longest running. Cookies will be 20 years old next year.
Oh, okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah, those are the guys that I have the most time in because I'm 43, so I almost half my life in that band, and then the other ones have kind of come and gone. Even though I see the people fairly regularly, or at least, I mean, it's thank God, knock on wood, nobody's passed away or anything like that. A couple people have moved out of state, but we talk online the way you do with old friends. A couple people moved to Florida and some other places, but yeah, the Cookies, 20 years.
Yeah. And you've done a lot solo too. You've got some solo albums out, number of albums you've put out in your 30 years of music.
See, that's another one I'd have to count. I would say 7 or 8 as a solo artist. Full length albums, if you're not counting like EPs and singles and one-off things. 2 albums with Broken Transmitter, 2 albums with French Donkey, 1 original album with Imaginary Cookies before we became a cover group, 1 album with The Isolation Theory, and yeah, I think those are the ones that are coming to mind. There might be other stuff, and then I've done work with Hey Monet. I'm on a couple of their records. I've guested for other people, done some cameo work for other people. But
yeah,
a lot. It's been a lot. Yeah, well, it's been a lot. Well, it's what I love though. So
yeah,
it doesn't feel like no, it doesn't feel like work when you love it. Really.
Right. No, it's amazing. It's just the kind of musician that everyone's just got to respect. Just that, just constantly like putting in the work, just out there like in front of people and and recording your music and. You're a songwriter, singer-songwriter, you play your instruments, just all that stuff, like all that good stuff, like real rock star stuff, man. Scott, you're a real rock star.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Some days it feels like it and some days it doesn't. And I mean, we'll get to it, I'm sure, but that's kind of where the book deals a lot with that. The things that felt really good and the things that felt like an accomplishment and the things that I didn't quite hit that or, it bums you out a little bit that you didn't hit all the heights you set out to get. But, if you aim the bar really high, the idea would be that if you don't quite get it, you're still in a really great place.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? If you fall short of a sky high aspiration, you're still in a really, really great place, and you're probably still further along than other people who didn't put in as much effort, maybe.
Yeah. So I was being a little cagey about the book because I was going to mention here that not only are you a musician, but now you are an author. You have written a book, and I
Yeah.
just minutes before we joined the podcast just read the last page of it, and it's fantastic, and we're going to talk about it. But I wanted to mention first, like we're talking about your career as a musician,
Yeah.
and like you said, you've stepped back from it a little bit and doing some other projects, and I think that's amazing. Um, but um, but this, like you have such a catalog of music, you really do, and like people can find that on Spotify, right? Search for you,
Yeah.
search for some of the bands you've been. All that stuff is out there for people to listen to if they want to check it out, right?
Yeah. Everything is available on Spotify and Apple and YouTube and basically anywhere. I mean, even the ones that are in other countries like Deezer and I can't remember them all. If it's a major service and an app in your phone that you listen to music, I'm on there somewhere.
Yeah.
Even like the TikTok and Instagram, when you go to add little clips of music to your pictures or your memes or whatever, my stuff is in there. Sometimes when I make a post, I can actually search my own song to make as the music bed, the post or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
And so,
ironically, I have to do that because I'll actually get hit with a copyright infringement against myself.
oh, okay.
If I make because I have like a movie maker on my phone, so I can do travel videos and little whatever we do anymore with this digital thing that we all live in. If I make like a little commercial for a show or a commercial for an album, and I put in the real music, I get flagged the way anybody would for
Yeah.
your video contains copyrighted music, even if it is me, and there's no real people that I can contest that with and go, wait, it's me.
Yeah.
I have a blue
Yeah.
check mark. I bought one. Please, it's me. So I have to like mute my own song on a post and go find it through their catalog and try to
Oh,
resync it. It's a pain in
that's
the butt, but
that is a pain. What a pain, man.
I know,
Jeez.
right?
The the foibles of fame, I guess, like
Yeah,
what a pain in the butt.
it
But
is all the digital stuff. So
I wanted to mention too, though, like the people like listen to this, like we haven't dropped an episode yet, and we're gonna hopefully pick up a bit of an audience. And I'm gonna expect that some of those are going to be, of the nerd variety because we're nerds talking about nerd
sure,
stuff that we really like. And
yeah.
I'm going to say that like some of the nerds that might listen to this probably have heard Scott Paris and maybe didn't even know it because Scott, you toured with a Comic Con for a while. You were playing
Yes, I did.
With some Comic Con celebrities like out there touring the U.S. for the primarily. You didn't go international with that, did you?
We almost went international, and the pandemic is what stopped us. Really, that
Ah,
kind of put a thwart in everything. From 2018 to 2020, we were the house band for Wizard World Comic Con,
yeah,
and we went all over the U.S. A couple places we went twice. Um, because they go on a circuit, you know what I mean? They visit the same city every
right.
year, kind of in a circuit. So we'd already been in the rotation for 2 years, and it was they were adding more dates for us, and they just in March of 2020, I kid you not, 2 weeks before everything in the world shut down, they gave us the invite to go to Saudi Arabia,
Oh,
and we were
wow.
about to get our passports in order, and they had already done it the year before, and they had a really great time, and all of our friends that work in the staff said that they were treated great and it was beautiful and the food was great and the people were great, so we were into it.
Yeah,
And then we didn't get the chance, so
man.
almost international, but I have seen a great many of our United States, and it's been awesome. But yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
times we'd get to schmooze with some of the actors, and if they were musicians, we knew it, and we hunted them down, and we convinced them to jam with us. I've got some great videos and pictures of
I
different
think that's
people
awesome.
jamming with us and doing cover songs and having fun with the audience, and
I
it was
gotta
just
say,
it was a great
I
time.
yeah, I gotta say, I was following you on Instagram and stuff for some of that, and just the green-eyed monster it like revealed itself more than once. I was like very, very envious of some of the famous elbows that you were rubbing with there.
Sorry.
It's some really interesting. You and I are fans of a lot of the same things. One of those being Doctor Who, and you've been in the presence of some sci-fi royalty for sure. And yeah, of course there's a story that we'll talk about Doctor Who, but another sci-fi inspiration that inspired your book, much
I
of
know
your
where you're
book, the
going with
title
that.
of your
Yep.
book. So yeah. So we're going to
Yeah, the
talk about that
Doctor.
too.
I was going to say the Doctor Who cast is why that was the catalyst to how we got into Comic-Con. I had a friend named Ryan, and he worked at a local radio station for years. He's my age. We went to school together. He started as an intern at the local rock radio station, and he used to sneak us into the station and introduced us to all the DJs. And one
Mm.
of them was nice enough to let our band come on Friday night from time to time, play our demos on the air, and kind of get interviewed. And we did that a while. And that, I mean, you're talking year 2000, 1999. I was maybe 18 years old. I thought that was the best thing ever. And then my friend Ryan went on to work for Comic Cons and became this kind of carny. And I say that with love, but he kind of started traveling and he joined the circus, really. I mean, he got to just run away with all these great people and just live in a sci-fi world. And he kept asking me year after year, he goes, "Hey, would you ever want to perform at one of these? We're thinking about doing a little cocktail lounge that people, if you go to a Comic-Con, sometimes there's a food area with some tables and a vendor." He goes, "We thought about putting music over there for them." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I think that's maybe a little too nerdy for me. I don't know that I'm right for it. I don't know why I turned it down. I don't know what I thought it was going to be."
I don't know.
And then in 2017, the some of the cast of Doctor Who were guests. It was Matt Smith and Karen Gillan.
Mm.
And I saw that. I saw an ad for it, and I realized the name was the place that my friend Ryan worked for, was Wizard World. And I wrote him and I said, "Hey, I take back everything I said. Can I please can I please come to this? Because I really want to meet Matt Smith and Karen Gillan." And
Yeah.
he snuck us in. I can say that now because it's enough time's passed. But he got us passes for my brother and sister and I, and we went and spent the day at a Comic-Con, and it changed my life. It was so cool, and it was so, like you said, I was amongst other nerds who loved what I love, and I didn't realize how nice that would feel to just be around people who geek out about the same stuff I do that isn't music. Because
Yeah.
all my other friends geek out about music, which is beautiful, but like I never really get to geek out about sci-fi and you know what I mean, like Marvel
Yeah.
movies and like all this other stuff. And I told him that day, I said, "If you convince them to have music, I'm your guy."
Yeah.
And then by 2018, they were starting to try out having music, and they asked us to do the Cleveland location, and we did it for free. All we wanted was free passes and a couple chances to meet some people.
Yeah.
And they liked us enough to have us come back to Columbus 6 months later when they came back around. And we did that, and that's when they asked us to just join the tour and just be the band. Because
That's so cool.
every other band that they had tried in other states, the groups were too loud. They tried to turn it into a big rock concert, and in a convention center that's all brick and isn't made for sound at all is too much. The sound would
Yeah.
just ping pong off the walls. It was not fun, probably, for people who didn't go there for music. They went there for other things. And then the actors couldn't hear their fans very well to sign and talk to their fans and sign autographs. So a lot of complaints. They were about to shut the program down. And we played, and we had electronic drums and things that were very volume controllable. And it was just Tim and I. So there wasn't like 5 people bouncing around the stage. It was just the two of us. I mean, we formed Broken Transmitter to be a Comic-Con band.
Yeah.
We ended up writing music because we could, and because we thought, well, if we're going to travel the country, let's sell a record, let's make a record and then promote it. But that we really formed that group just to get the opportunity, or because the opportunity, presented itself to
And Broken
do that.
Transmitter was an offshoot of Cookies, was it?
No, Vagabonds.
Vagabonds. Okay.
Yeah, Tim Benner was the drummer in Broken Transmitter, but he was the bassist in Assorted Vagabonds for a while, for years actually. And Vagabonds was all original, and then he joined a cover band I was in called Hello Dolly that was all covers, and that group didn't want to play the Comic-Con for whatever reason. The other two members just didn't. Maybe they felt like I had felt previously, and I tried to convince them how much fun it was, and they said no. They said they just weren't into it. It was a free gig at the time.
Yeah.
They weren't real into that. And, by the time we started touring the country with them, it wasn't free anymore. They were paying for our flights and our hotel rooms, and we had a per diem, so we had cash everywhere we went. But it wasn't like rich. I mean, it wasn't like, something to write home about as far as the paychecks, but we weren't broke.
Right.
And it was just great. It was just so much fun. And then I always tell people, I know the pandemic took a lot of things from a lot of people, some as severe as lives, and then other people as severe as their businesses. So I'm not saying I had it any worse than anybody, because I didn't. But for me, it took my traveling. I mean, I really haven't traveled like that since that time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think we can also just say fuck COVID. Like that just.
Oh yeah. I wasn't sure where your language was restrictions where we didn't talk about it, but yeah, fuck COVID for sure.
Yeah, right.
It really. I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna cry about it too much, because a lot of people had it worse than I did by so many more umpteenth degrees. But it definitely didn't do me any favors either. So.
Yeah, but we'll focus on the time you had. It was the adventure that you had. It's a result of, as you say in your book, which we're going to talk more about, a yes and mindset of just going with the flow, and just, and like you said, you took a non-paying gig, just something you thought would be fun, and it turned into something that was much more than that. Just this like kind of gallivanting adventure that you had with aliens and androids and everybody.
That's exactly what it was.
And
oh my God,
just that whole thing,
It really was. And I mean, I try to convince my kids that that's the right way, and like someone, anyone or their kids. Say yes to everything. Anything that sounds fun. I mean, you shouldn't do anything for the motivation of money, other than maybe your day job. We all have to do that. You got like bills to pay.
Right.
But when it's near and dear, I mean, when it's something that you love to do it just for that. Just do it for that. And then if something else comes out of it, that's a win on top of you already won because you did something that you loved. And that's what that tour was like for us. Like we would have played locally for free for 100 years if they wanted us. And when they asked us to go a little further, we said, hey, can you just help us so we're not broke? And they did. And that was enough. Absolutely. And other people maybe would have put their nose up at the offer. But for us, we're like, oh my God. Yeah, done. Where do I sign? Where do I sign?
That's awesome. And I want to say too that I had a bit of a moment like that here recently, and I thought about doing this podcast. I had an opportunity to just do some other things that we've talked about here, photograph some concerts and things, and kind of have a bit of a stint as a rock journalist. I think of that movie. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but Almost Famous.
Yes.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. And he plays like sort of a kind of jaded radio rock journalist, and this is back in the 70s, right? And he's telling this young aspiring journalist who wants to write for Rolling Stone magazine that he's kind of missed it. He's here for the death rattle of rock and all that kind of stuff. And I feel a little bit like that sometimes too, but hey, at least I'm here for this. And you were here for this, and we just make the best with what we got, right? And anyway, I reached out to Scott and I said, hey, I'm doing this thing and I think it's going to be fun. And I don't know if it's going to amount to anything or what, but I'm going to have some fun trying it anyway. And I wondered if I could use one of your songs on this podcast. And he was like so into it and so supportive. And I just was so grateful for that and everything. And it was a chance for Scott and I to reconnect and talk and catch up a little bit. And it's been a chance for me to catch up with and reconnect with a lot of friends I haven't talked to in a while. Scott was, just so gracious. It's great to have you here, to be able to thank you sort of publicly like this, just for all that.
Hey, you're welcome. And thank you it's a two-way street, because, you're starting this new venture and you were kind enough to ask me to come on, and then that lets me come on, and maybe I'll meet some people through your platform that I didn't know before. And so it's just the beautiful thing about art and the stuff that we make, even in this new weird digital world. That's our networking, and that's what a cool community to be part of. So it's just as cool to get that email or phone call as it is to give it. Because I've had a podcast with my friends in the Cookies, and we've had some folks on, and it was so cool to ask them, and they said yes to come on our little show. And it's also really, really awesome to get invited on a show. So it's just, you can't lose. It's just all good.
Awesome. That's great. That's really great. So as we've alluded to several times now, we haven't really done a good job of being cagey about it, but my friend Scott here isn't just a talented musician, but he's also a published author, a writer. He's written a memoir, the title of which is A Guitar Called Harry V and the Cover Band Conundrum. Which for a few days at least, it's got a sticker on the cover. It's legit. For a few days there, it was a #1 bestseller on Amazon.com, folks. So,
yes, it was.
We have a best-selling author in the studio with us today, and we're going to talk about this book, which, again, I just finished minutes before we jumped on this call. So I have a very fresh recollection of it. Lots of stuff in here. And I will tell you, Scott, I think you're brave too, because you're writing. Of course, it's a memoir. It's about a year sort of traveling with this instrument, and we'll meet Harry here in just a minute. But you're brave. You share some stories in here of a personal nature, some stories here that potentially could be of an embarrassing nature. And I give you kudos for that. And I think that, obviously in a book like this, in a memoir, we all sort of delight in I hate to say it, but we kind of delight in your misery sometimes, I think.
Sure.
We're kind of overjoyed at reading just sort of some of the situations that you found yourself in. Some I recall one that I literally just not long ago, just earlier today, was just chuckling out loud about was the wedding that you played.
Yeah.
And the untimely gust of wind.
It's 100% true. That story is all true.
You were singing and playing the wedding march, and the wind kind of took your lyric sheet away, and you were left kind of mumbling as the bride walked down the aisle. And I thought that was just classic.
And I was really late getting there, because that was before GPS was invented, because that's how old we are now. Yeah, what a horror story. And that was the first wedding I ever played after all my mentors for, the ones teaching me how to make a business of going out and playing music in a cover kind of capacity. They all said, "Oh, wedding's the one you want. Wedding is a great payday. Try to get some weddings." And I said, "Okay, I'll try one." And my first one was a total disaster. And I should have learned my lesson. And I did a few more disasters after that, wedding wise. And I really should have learned better. So, right. But no, the ups and the downs. I figured that's why I thought it would be neat to write the story, because I don't know if everyone knows that kind of stuff happens. Other musicians will read that and go, "Oh my God, I've done that. I know what that is." And then folks who just love music, who haven't performed, might read that and go, oh, wow. So it's not all good all the time. And it's not all what Instagram makes you think, that everyone always lives a perfect life and you don't. It's, how we kind of have that filter on everything. Everything is always so shiny on
Yeah.
social media. And I wanted to kind of turn the light switch on the darker part of the warehouse and go, no, look at all this shit back here. This is the stuff no one wanted you to look at behind the curtain, And I thought, the rule was be authentic or don't do this. And I stared at those pages for a year, and I went, the whole point was not to pat myself on the back. It wasn't a fluff piece. It wasn't just a big overdrawn list of accomplishments. It was none of that, or at least that the goal was to not do that at all. It was just an honest storytelling, things I thought were funny, interesting, some good, some bad.
Yeah.
Just like no bullshit. Just there it is, authentic. That's the
Yeah.
only way it made sense for me, is to be really honest about it, even the really dark parts.
Yeah. And
because
you
they're
also,
real. They're real.
right. Yeah. You also had a little stint as a bit of a food critic, and you mentioned in the book, of course, Anthony Bourdain, which we
I
lost
love
some
him.
years back, and he wrote that book, No Reservations, and I'm going to go and say it. This is the No Reservations for like the gig musician. It's just like it's just very. It's revealing, and it's insightful, and it's surprising, and it's intimate, and it's personal, and it's authentic, and I just enjoyed it from start to finish. And you
Thank you.
just tell some really excellent stories in there, and anyone who knows you just a little bit will hear it in your voice as they're reading it, as I did, and it's just it just comes across very real, for sure.
No, that means a lot. Yeah, No Reservations, I think, was the show. The book was Kitchen Confidential.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Right.
And I am standing 20 feet from my copy right now, where I'm at, and I not only did I love that book, which I read after the show. I found him because of television, the way maybe a lot of people did. And they always referenced his book. Oh, he got famous because he wrote a book. He wrote a book, and then he got the television show, and then everybody knew who he was. So I bought the book a couple years back, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I loved his writing style. Like you said, I loved the grittiness. I loved the realness, because he, again, kind of like I wanted to. He didn't pull any punches, even if it was at his own peril. He didn't play the hero the whole time and fluff it up, and he was relatively unknown when he wrote the book. He had a 20-year career as a chef and a sous chef and a saucier and all those things, and that's why he wrote it, because he knew that life, and he thought maybe people would find this interesting, and it took him to another place. And I thought, if I wrote my story, it wouldn't be in hopes to get a television show, but it would be that original principle was, like he did, an authentic telling of the underbelly of entertainment and music and the stuff that people don't tend to see.
Yeah.
So, no, I modeled Kitchen Confidential a lot in the way I told my story. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no.
And you wouldn't maybe see that connection unless, like, we're talking about it now. You might not read my story and go, hey, this is like that food guy. But for me, it really was. It absolutely was.
And I flubbed the title, but I did read the book, and I definitely saw the connection to it. And I want to say too, your food critic stand was kind of an extension of what you were doing with music at the time. It was sort of an opportunity that kind of came, like it wasn't something you really planned. You kind of fell into it. Is that right?
Yeah. There was a local zine, and so a zine is like a newspaper or a magazine, but it's usually very underground and kind of usually comes from the punk culture of like do it yourself because no one else is going to help you. Which, I mean, that's kind of my music background, is that very punk, very like like I published this book because no one else was going to do it, and I published my own albums because no one else was going to do it, and I really wanted to make it. So there was a zine in town called Buzzbin. It was Buzzbin magazine, and it came out looking like an oversized newspaper, full color, and it was local listings of clubs and who was having music, and it was interviews with whoever they could grab. I was in it a couple times, interviewed as just an artist, and I pitched the idea to the owner, Mike, at the time, and I said, hey, you don't have anything about the restaurants other than that they exist. And I said, I'm in so many restaurants performing cover songs. I said, would you let me get a little column and review some of the foods there? And it wouldn't be like an advertisement that they pay for. It would just be a public service. It wouldn't be like, I would say if it's good, I would say if it's bad, and I would say if I was playing there and what that was like for me. And I got to do a couple of them before the magazine shut down, but it was really interesting and fun. And again, you just try stuff. It's kind of that yes and. You just go, hey, I think I have an idea, and I'm already here. I always make this terrible analogy that it's like Taco Bell. Taco Bell has 5 ingredients in their building, and they keep putting them in a different order and calling it a new item.
Right.
So I was already doing a number of things, and I'm thinking, what else can I do with this? I'm looking around me going, what other thing can I offer out of what I'm already doing a lot, so that I don't have to change, much about where I'm going and what I'm doing. And then that carried on into Broken Transmitter, traveling the country. We turned my article, which was called The Not So Starving Artist, into a show called The Not So Starving Artists, plural, because it was Tim and I. And we were filming it all on an iPhone, editing on the fly. And that was I want to say a 16 episode miniseries on YouTube from all over the country.
Yeah, which people can still look for.
Yeah, I left all that up. That's still up there. And I had longer hair and I was skinnier then, but it exists. It was all there. So we had a real good time.
Yeah. I watched some of that. That was really cool. And I kind of dwelled on that a little bit because I wanted to kind of put you on the spot. And you don't have to mention any names or name any restaurant or anything like that. But what did you eat anything really bad while doing this?
We went to St. Louis, and this was one of the ones we filmed and is on YouTube. We were in the heart of St. Louis, and we only had a little bit of money with us, like left. And everyone kept saying you have to get barbecue in St. Louis. And neither of us were feeling barbecue at all, because you just can't help how you're feeling. And so it was either eat the barbecue for sake of the show or get what we really would rather have. And we sat across from a world-renowned St. Louis barbecue place, and we had a sub sandwich at a deli, and it was terrible. And it was boring. And we filmed, and you can see it on the show. We filmed outside on a patio table, trying to talk up this sandwich we'd had. That was it was like Subway. You just can't talk about Subway like it's a great thing. It's an okay thing. Yeah. And it's fine if you're at work and you've got 30 minutes to eat, you can have Subway. But we were on tour, and that was where our money was at. I can do a $10 sandwich, but I can't do a $25 barbecue plate. And maybe that's a regret of mine, is we came home and everyone was like, you're an idiot. You were across from, and I don't remember the name of the restaurant we were across from, but you can see it in the show. Yeah. And people were like, seriously? And that was the weekend Jason Momoa was there, and they had even had a special sandwich called the Jason Ham Moa. It was like a ham barbecue. And we had just met him, and we were thinking, oh, we could have tied this all together, and we just fucked up. I mean, we just didn't do it. So it wasn't gross, but I definitely missed a chance to do something cooler.
But you were deceptive. You were deceptive about it. You said you had to say something nice about it, even though it was bad. Is that right?
We were trying to be positive.
Yeah.
Nobody was twisting our arm. But
so somebody watched you do it, and they're like, hey, maybe I'll try that sandwich sometime. And then they're like, Scott Paris, sandwich sucks.
We never got compensated for the food. It was never something that we received any kind of kickback for. But we also weren't going to go, you know what I mean? We weren't going to go to someone's house and talk bad about them in front of a camera too. So
Right.
I would
Yeah, if you
assume,
don't.
I would like to think that if we'd filmed one and we hated everything. Oh, you know what? Actually, that reminds me. We went to Philadelphia and we did this on the YouTube show. We went to Philadelphia and we did the very touristy thing of going to Geno's and Pat's for Philly steak,
Uh-huh.
and they're gross. And that one we actually admit on the camera that we didn't like it, that it was gross.
Yeah. Okay.
The bread was very good. The meat was steakums, like steakums you buy at the grocery store. The mushrooms were canned, which I don't hate, but they were canned for sure. And the cheese was Cheese Whiz, actual fucking Cheese Whiz. And to me, that's the grossest
That's
process.
the worst cheese. It's the
It's
worst
so
cheese.
terrible. Everyone goes, "Oh, you got to get an authentic." I'm like, "What's authentic?" They said, "With Cheese Whiz." I said, "What the fuck is authentic about Cheese Whiz?"
Oh,
But
that's the worst cheese. Oh, I agree with you that.
So
and
that's
you know,
that we did leave on the show. No offense to Gino and Pat, but those are gross sandwiches. And I'm going to Philadelphia this summer for a personal, like a family trip. And I am not taking my family to Gino's or Pat's. We're going to go find a better, if we do cheesesteak at all, because they have other things. They have other things in Philadelphia. But
the thing about that is, though, I mean, you're just stating preference. Like, somebody loves that sandwich, and that's okay. They can love it. But, you know, Cheese Whiz is gross. We both agree with that. I would agree with you that sandwich is probably gross if it's heavy on the Cheese Whiz.
Did you ever see Ratatouille? The movie?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So at the end, the hard ass critic that's never happy about nothing, they feed him. They feed him like a normal home cooked version of Ratatouille, and it makes him it makes him remember his mom, and that's like the best. If you grew up in Philly and your folks took you to Geno's and that sandwich makes you feel like a kid again, I get it. Yeah. If you're in your 30s and you're on tour with a rock band and it's your first time, it's gross. Sorry, my apologies to your mom if that's where you grew up, but
Scott, I think that's as fair as you can be. I think that you're allowing people to have their nostalgia, their childhood food and stuff, and enjoy it. We're not telling people not to enjoy it. If you enjoy it, go ahead. But
I'm sure I like stuff that a lot of people might think is gross. But if I ate it my whole life, and I get it.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do?
Now you're in your 40s now. You're a little bit younger than me, but you're in your 40s now. You've been doing this for a while. How do you deal with cheese these days, Scott? I'm just curious. Just cheese in general.
Poorly.
Yeah. Me too. And it's a double-edged sword, because there's a lot of really good cheese. Cheese Whiz is not the good cheese.
Cheese Whiz is not cheese.
I in my past days and even now, like I know that it's a bad decision, but like I like cheese and I know it's a bad call to eat it and everything because it's not going to be good later.
Yeah. The comedian Tim Minchin has a great song about his love of cheese and how much it hurts him. It's like a love song, like you would write to someone who's treated you bad, but you just can't let him go. And that's his love song to cheese.
Yeah.
I'll have to find the title. It might even just be called Cheese. But yeah, he's an Australian guy, and it's like it's the most accurate thing for an adult 40-year-old man to go, "Oh, I know that. I know that feeling. I'm going to eat cheese later, and it's going to hurt, but I'm going to do it."
Yeah. So that was my sort of like clever transition into it. I wanted to talk about another embarrassing but to me hilarious story that you tell in your book. And it reminded me of, did you ever watch that sitcom Louie that Louis C.K. had for a short period? You ever watch that? He's a controversial figure now and everything.
Sure.
I'm
real familiar with Louis C.K., but I don't know that I saw his sitcom. I know his stand-up stuff. And I know the controversy.
there was a show he had called Louie, and my wife and I watched this episode, and to this day, like if we see it or like somehow come across it, it just cracks us up to no end. And it's an episode, and it's he's out with his two daughters in the show. I don't know what his family situation is, but the two young actresses that played his daughters on the show. and he's walking down the sidewalk and he's having a bathroom emergency, and
Yeah.
his
Oh, this was
daughters are
my
like,
drive to, yeah, this was my
yeah,
drive to
yeah.
Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and he's trying to like, he's walking very like stiffly and kind of like clenching and everything, and his daughters are mortified and they're like, "Daddy, no!" And he's trying to get into a restaurant to use the bathroom and they won't let him in, and he's just like, "Oh, it's too late." And his daughters are like crying like, "No!" And they're just like so mortified and so disgusted about it. You had a bathroom emergency.
Yes, I did.
When you were playing a show with the dude from American Pie, Rookie of the
Yeah,
Year,
Thomas
right?
Nicholas. Yeah,
Thomas
Thomas Ian
Nicholas.
Nicholas. Tim and I met him on the Comic-Con. We met him through Wizard World. Great
Yep.
guy. And we're the same age, he and I grew up watching his movies. I loved Rookie of the Year, and I was in high school when American Pie came out. So it's like I only met him, the last so many years ago, and as an adult. But I feel like I grew up with him, kind
Yeah.
of in a way, like the way you would watching the Goonies, or I don't know, anything. You kind of, if when you get to meet him, you're like, I feel like I know you. I don't know you for real, but I feel like I do. Um, Instantly had that connection with him, and it turns out he really is a cool guy, and we really did hit it off well, and we are friends. Um, but when he's around, he asks us to be his backing band, and he's done that a number of times, and
That's awesome.
we did it in a lot of cities on tour because it made sense. We were always together. So I switched over to bass and let him be the front man, and we just backed him up, and it was always a good time. And so he called us out of the blue at the end of towards the end of last year, and I was still writing the book, so I thought this would be great. And it was unexpected, and all the times I'd mentioned him earlier in the book, I really honestly didn't know if I'd ever talk to him again. So everything was written in real time. So if you're reading chapter 10 and I mention him and say I haven't talked to him in years, I hadn't. And
Yeah.
then by chapter whatever, 30 or 40, there I am playing with him again. And that's kind of how life really is for me, or for anybody who does this kind of stuff. Stuff happens and you jump on, you just go, yes, I want to do that. Yes.
Yeah.
So we went to Pittsburgh to the City Winery, which is a beautiful venue, dinner theater, and the entire 2-hour drive there, I had very bad indigestion and I had to poop. But there was just nowhere to go. And I was too picky with where I wanted to pull over because I wanted some kind of fast food place I could go in and out that I thought would be somewhat clean. And I just either was too picky or I didn't find the right chance. And then I got all the way to the Comic-Con, which is where we were meeting him, where he was signing autographs for the 25th anniversary of American Pie. And all the cast was there. Well, some of the cast was there, but they were all, there to celebrate. And we were hours away from doing this concert together, but we showed up early to see him and help him with his gear. He had flown in with all this equipment. We were going to put it in my car and drive it out for him and set it up for him so he could just Uber over and do the gig. And I was met with, a security issue where I couldn't get into the thing to see him. Hence, I couldn't get in to use the bathroom. And and the whole time I'm thinking, I did that same awkward walk for like a half a mile because I had to park so far away from the Comic-Con because they were so busy, which good for them, but bad for me. I'm doing that like shame shuffle with my knees touching as I'm scooting along going, oh my God, I'm going to shit my pants. And I don't have clean pants with me. I'm 2 states away. Well, I'm 1 state over, but I'm 2 hours away easy. I'm going to wear this outfit the rest of tonight and then go to a hotel and still probably only have this outfit. I was traveling very light, and yeah. And I get to the door. And I tell the lady, yeah, I'm with actor Thomas Nicholas. I'm very important. You need to let me in. And she goes, I'm sorry, you're not on my list. And I go, check it again, please. Please check it again. I'm very important. Please let me in. And I'm trying to say that really quietly. And she goes, I'm going to have to call someone. I said, call whoever the fuck you want. Please let me in this. Please let me in. I'm gonna poop in my pants. And in my mind, I'm going, this whole story is going in my book. I swear. Like, I was trying to remember exactly what happened when I got to the hotel later that night after the show. Um, all these stories were journals. All these stories were written in notebooks.
Yeah.
And, I don't use, I use the computer. I don't want to sound like the old guy. Oh, I don't use computers. Of course I use a computer. My manuscript was done in Microsoft Word and whatever. But the original drafts of all my stories were in notebooks that traveled in the guitar case. So in a hotel room at 2 a.m, I'm writing all this down about this night that I'd had and day, this entire experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's an awful feeling. It's an
Well,
awful
yeah,
feeling.
no, it is. I've had it myself, so I know where you're coming from there. I think most of us in our 40s have had a situation like that at some point or another, especially
It's
those of
awful.
us that just won't stop eating cheese no matter what it does to us.
Yeah. My problem, I don't think my problem was cheese. I don't know what it was that day.
I
Maybe it was
don't know.
nerves. I don't know.
but but I'm only partly like sorry for laughing at your misfortune there. I had to get you to tell that story because like
Oh,
I'm
no, no,
just
no.
I'm just
It's meant to be funny.
immature, and I know.
No, no. I laugh at it as much as you do. See, I was raised on Three Stooges, so when I get hurt, my initial reaction is laughing. If we're ever together and I hit my knee on a table, if I'm laughing, it actually hurts really bad. And if I'm laughing really hard, that means like I might have broke something. It's really bad.
Oh,
The harder I'm laughing, the more I'm hurting.
yeah.
And that's kind of it's real and it's a metaphor for how I look at stuff.
Oh,
You have
but
to laugh.
I felt pain for you though when you said you chipped your tooth on a microphone at
I did.
Gervasi.
I did.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I felt
Song
that
one,
pain.
too. It was the
Tooth
very first
stuff.
song. Yeah.
Jeez, ouch. I felt
And
that.
then you
I
got that
felt
raw
that.
nerve feeling every time you suck in, and it's just,
Yeah.
makes your spine tingle.
So guys, this is the kind of authentic, just like real, just again, gritty stuff that you read about, like a gig musician, in this time of ours, in this book that Scott's got. Again, it's called A Guitar Called Harry V and the cover band Conundrum. And we've talked about all these silly things, but I do want to talk about Harry V. And we've been on here
Yeah.
now for going almost on an hour, so we got to get to this. So tell me about Harry V, Scott.
Sure. I if it, I don't know how many different guitars I had while you and I were doing lessons together, but I notoriously in my friends group would confirm this. Um, I don't settle well with guitars. I buy one because I think I'm gonna like it, and I play with it for a couple months, and then I sell it. And I don't have a collection. I'm not a collector of instruments. To me, I love playing, but the instrument is like it's a tool. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're a carpenter, you have a set of tools that does what it's supposed to, and you buy the good ones because you're a professional, and if you use drills and saws all day, maybe you have Milwaukee because you just feel like that's what you should have because it's the right stuff. So I buy good instruments, but some of them they just don't. Or like how to drive a car. You could probably
Mm-hmm.
drive any car. You understand the mechanics of it. I can play a guitar. But you can sit in a car for 10 minutes and go, I hate this. I hate this. I hate the layout. I hate the way it
Mm-hmm.
feels. I don't like the response. It's real similar with an instrument. Um, and maybe I've always just been looking for my Ferrari of a guitar. I don't know. But I got this semi-acoustic electric hybrid. It's a Fender Acoustasonic Telecaster, which is that's a line that they've only had for a couple years. Some big names have started to use them. They're very lightweight, which helps my shoulder because over the years my shoulder's gone out from all the playing, and it's easy to hold. It's got a thin neck like an electric, so it's very easy to play, and it doesn't hurt your hands the way maybe a big Taylor or a big Martin would with the big fat neck and the heavy body and the dreadnought.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I always was hoping to find one guitar that could do everything I want to do. It could be acoustic sounding for a solo. It could be rock and roll sounding for the band. And then I don't have to travel with three different things in my car. I can just
Yeah.
have the one thing and play all night because I don't have roadies and no one's handing me a fresh guitar after every song like a big rock band. Um, so I got this Telecaster and right away I liked it. And it was really like, I'm very optimistic about how much I like this thing. I wouldn't change a thing
Mm-hmm.
about it. And normally I swap out pickups or I swap out um, anything. You can change so much on a guitar, kind of like a car. You can start swapping parts and, you know, switch it to your liking. I really like this thing right out of the box.
Yeah.
And
And that's
because I've been on some podcasts and we've done some other things, I thought, you know, I've never told the story of a guitar like from day one, from the day I got it to the day I either got rid of it or it broke or whatever happens to it later. I've never actually documented what a guitar player feels and does with a new guitar right out of the box, you know, first owner. Um, so I started writing in notebooks, and I didn't think it would be any more than a journal for me. I thought maybe it would be some conversation starters for a podcast.
mm-hmm.
I didn't know what it would be, but I started writing about this guitar, and then it got its name, Harry Vanderspiegel, because that's a character on Resident Alien, which is a sci-fi show.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got to meet Alan Tudyk, who's the main guy, and
Fantastic.
I've never
That's
had
some,
anybody. All these years of performing at Comic Cons, I never had anybody sign something for me. I've got
yeah.
pictures, I've got stories, I've got some of their phone numbers. I mean, I had a great time. I never actually did the fan thing and said, "Would you sign this for me?" I never did it because it felt like you, and this might be wrong, but it felt like I would cheapen the relationship.
Yeah.
Like if I met, like when I met Tom Nicholas, we we were the same age. We've got a lot in common. We both love music. I liked his movies. We had a lot that we could talk about. And he saw me maybe not as an equal because I'm not an actor, but we we were, I don't want to say we were on the same level, but you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
he didn't think I was some weirdo fan. He was not scared in my presence. I don't think he thought I was badgering him. We had a genuinely copacetic, simpatico thing going on. And I never thought to go, "Hey, by the way, would you also sign this for me?" Because I feel like that instantly puts me down a peg to um,
Yeah. Yeah.
nagging fan, or I don't know what that does. Maybe that's wrong too.
No,
But
I
I
get
just never
that. That
had
makes
anybody
sense.
sign something. And maybe that's my own mind saying, "Oh, don't do that. That looks so tacky."
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me. But I don't play for the Comic Cons anymore. I only was going as a fan, truly. I had to pay to get in. I didn't have any special access. I've lost all that because of the one that I work for went under. And so I took this guitar because I had a Resident Alien sticker that I
Mm.
bought, a bumper sticker on the back of the guitar. And it's a picture of Harry V, the real one from the TV show. And his tagline is, "This is some bullshit," which you'd have to watch the show. He says it all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I took it up to Alan and I said, "Hey man, I'm a really big fan. You know, he's the voice of K2SO in Rogue
Mm-hmm.
One. He's just done so much. Like you just
Firefly
have
with
to
Nathan Fillion.
Firefly. Oh
Like,
my God.
oh my
He
God.
was washed, dude. Like
Yes.
you would just have to look up his IMDb and go, "Oh
uh,
my God, this guy's in everything." And I didn't even know
Alan Tudyk is a
he's done,
legend.
he's done kids movies. He was, King Candy in Wreck-It
Yeah.
Ralph.
Yeah.
He was in so many different things. He's the
Oh, it's
chicken in Moana. He's Hey
a
Hey.
very
Uh,
prolific voice actor and a lot of stuff in voice, but like he does so much with it's expressive with his voice, but like it's really a shame because he's so expressive too, like with his face and
he's fantastic.
Resident Alien, like he just uses it all, and it's just and
I think that's the
phenomenal.
best use of his whole entire arsenal of
I
funny
think so.
stuff is
I
so
think
far.
so.
So far. And Con Man was really good too. If you've never seen it, they have it
Mm.
on Freevee or whatever the TV thing is. He did a self-funded sitcom based on a washed-up sci-fi actor who has to make money by going to Comic Cons and signing stuff, and
Yeah.
it's a parody, and he's the guy, and
Yeah.
he has to play this really dirtbag version of himself, like just not wanting to be there, and he wishes he was a serious actor. It's such a fun time, and it's really pretty accurate to the world of that, of conventions and stuff. Sometimes
But
it takes a piss on it, and sometimes it's genuine. Um, but yeah, so I met him in real life and I asked him if he'd sign the back of my guitar. And just like his character, I said, "Would you write 'Hey Dickhead' on the top of it?" And he laughed and he said he would. And he signed Alan Tudyk. And then underneath that, he wrote, probably to disambiguate himself from having said, "Hey Dickhead," and then Alan Tudyk, because maybe he was worried about how that would look. He wrote Harry Vanderspiegel. So he wrote all that on the back of my guitar. And
Yeah.
as I took it home and the ink was drying, I went, I don't really name instruments because I don't really keep them long enough to have a name. I don't have, B.B. King has Lucille. He had it for 100 years. I never really had a Lucille, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's this. And since I've already started journaling about it, maybe I'll go with that. And I decided to call the guitar Harry V. And I shortened it to V because I knew there'd be a copyright problem.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I did reach out to Dark Horse and I tried to get Peter Hogan to give me his blessing, and I haven't. So I hope that's never a problem. And I go to great lengths to say that I only use the name with love, and I am not trying to infringe on their show or anything. But yeah, I started calling my guitar Harry V. And then once I did that, the way I was telling the story, and once I was a few chapters in and I realized maybe it was a book, and that was a big light bulb. Like, maybe these journals, maybe I could write a book. Maybe some other people would think this is interesting or funny or stupid, and that's
Yeah.
okay too. I started talking to the guitar like a character, and I started kind of thinking maybe it experienced jealousy when I would go play with other bands and play the bass, and maybe it would, I don't know, but it gave me a lot of room to express my psyche and where my brain goes with stuff by personifying this guitar and giving it a name. So the top of the manuscript, I kept changing the name of what this thing was going to be called. And I landed on a guitar called Harry V.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just that for a long time until I got about halfway through and I realized how much I was talking about my life and how I got to this point and how I wanted to be a serious artist who wrote records, and I wanted to be a rock star, and I wanted to do all the things that, a Nirvana would have done or a whoever. And I didn't, and that's okay because I still had a really great time. And so then it became the cover band Conundrum. And I thought that kind of sounded like a Scooby-Doo episode. I really liked the way cover band Conundrum sounded because it's a little silly, and it's obviously a play on like that, the rhythm of how that feels just to say the words together.
Right.
And, and if it was a Scooby-Doo episode, you lift the mask off the villain and it's me. I was telling the story about me, even the bad parts, and that's I thought great. That would really help to get to the root of the story, because there's a lot of half-baked psychology in there too. Like, here's my take on why I think I feel this way. And then I thought, if I write that down, it's like looking in a mirror. When I read it back, it's like, oh shit. I wrote some stuff that when I read it back, I go, do I really feel that way? Because I was just free writing. I was just brainstorming and going for it. And you read it back and you go, oh my God. Wow. Yeah. I've never said these words out loud. I didn't know that I acknowledge I feel this way about something, And then I thought, well, maybe somebody else will read it and they'll go, hey, I'm not so different than this guy. I have the same anxieties, or I have the same doubts that I didn't hit my peak, or I have the same wishes about, I wish something would have been a little better, and maybe something did go better,
Yeah. Well, it's very relatable. And, I think the anxiety piece is something too I wanted to talk to you about. And maybe we can do that another time, but that's definitely something that a lot of people have, can relate to, myself included. And, I read it. I thought, I didn't know this about Scott. And it certainly humanized you in a lot of ways for me, because I've always sort of put you on a pedestal. I'll just be honest and say, I think that, I've always been sort of, an admiring fan. And it just always sort of seen you as just like, just really cool, just a really cool guy.
Well, thank you.
So
thank you.
Then to read that, you experience a lot of the same things that I do. And, you're a real person. You deal with real emotions and real
Sure.
issues and things like that. And I think that's very
Everybody does,
relatable.
man.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
does. And I got to see that side of some of the musicians and actors that I met when we were touring. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't mention them a lot in the book just because there wasn't a lot of reasons to bring it up, and I really wasn't trying to name drop or fish for attention or nothing. But Kato Kalin became a good friend of ours on the tour.
Mm-hmm.
He was the MC, and he really was an MC. He was great on the mic. He was very interactive with the fans and whatever. But people knew him because he was the star witness in the O.J. Simpson trial. That's how he
Right.
got famous. And he has been spending his whole life in that duality of running away from that and trying to be known for literally anything other, because he
Yeah.
is really funny, he's really talented, he's really sweet, and also that's still how people know him. So he has to
Yeah.
acknowledge that that's how people know him, and he's very sweet about it. To a degree. I mean, if he
Yeah.
signs autographs on pictures of 20-year-old him on the witness stand because
Uh-huh.
that's what people remember him for.
Yeah.
Um, and he probably could write his own story about, I wish I could have done something different. I wish you knew me for this other thing that I love. You only know me for this other unfortunate thing. Not that being in a cover band's unfortunate, but the people I met knew me from that. Even people at the Comic Cons, they were watching us play 90%, maybe 80% cover songs. We only got to sneak in so much of our own stuff at the
Yeah.
Wizard World even.
Mm-hmm.
So people were seeing us in Texas, but they were seeing us play a cover song. And so is that success? I don't know. On some days I felt like it was, and on some days I felt like it wasn't. But Cato once, I forget what city we're in, but we hung out early. We got breakfast together a lot at the hotel. We'd get over to the convention center and they would let us in with passes before anybody else, like before the general audience, so we could get set up, get
Mm-hmm.
our bearings, and then they open the floodgates of the doors and it's like the zoo lets out. It's like all the animals at the zoo let out at once, your direction. They stampede the front area where the stage and where he was. So
Yeah.
10,000 people come by us in a whoosh as we start playing every day,
Some of them
which
wearing pointy costumes and all kinds of crazy,
it's
right?
nuts. It's fun and it's wonderful and it's nuts. But so
And the image of it being a stampede though, like it literally could be dangerous because some of these costumes could probably impale you.
yeah, they do check. There was always a security check, and all props are marked as props, and
Yeah.
weapons have to be blunted tipped, and things like that. But yeah, there's a lot of people that come through there. But Cato had gone to do a morning news segment in some city, wherever we were at, Tulsa, Oklahoma, or somewhere. And he'd done a news segment, and he's standing to the side of the stage watching his Instagram or his whatever, and clips of the morning news that he's on. And the comments are awful because people online are awful.
Yeah.
Trolls, I mean.
Right.
People say nasty stuff because they don't assume anyone else is real
Right.
and they don't assume they have feelings. And I literally stood next to Kato Kalin as he was flipping through his phone and reading the comments about a segment he'd done, a very happy piece about Wizard World. And it was
Mm-hmm.
an upbeat piece. It had nothing to do with OJ. It just was like, hey, I'm Kato, and we're in your town this weekend for this great thing, and blah blah blah. And the comments were gross, and I won't
Yeah.
even say them. They were gross,
Oh,
but they
it's
had to
just
do with
awful.
Nicole Brown, and they had to do with just
Ugh.
just bad. And the heartbreak in his eyes, just scrolling through this. And he's like, God, some people. I mean, I think that's all he said was, some people.
Yeah.
And I'm
Wow.
looking over his shoulder and I'm reading terrible things that
Oh, that's
trolls are
awful.
putting on this thing, not knowing the guy is actually reading it. And,
Yeah.
you talk about somebody becoming real human real fast.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, like he didn't choose to be known for that. I mean, he was in a
No.
situation where, he was connected with a story and it's just unfair. It's just so unfair. And like you said, it's
Yeah.
gross. It's mean. And
Yeah. But it was also the double side of the coin was it made him famous. And
yeah.
he was in Hollywood. I mean, he wanted to be famous as a comedian, as an actor, as an entertainer.
Uh-huh.
So a very unfortunate thing did put him in this public spotlight. I mean, Dana Carvey pretended to be him on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
and
right.
made him infamous. Him and Judge Ito and all them guys, they constantly were on SNL being parodied. And those things he thinks are great. And he'll share them from his own social media accounts. Every once in a while, he'll reshare Dana Carvey pretending to be him in 1992 or whatever year that was. So it's good and it's bad, but he handles it like a champ. And I learned a lot. Like, I remember thinking, if I ever got famous, I would, try to model that humility and that just, even when you get dealt something kind of bad, you have to run with it, make the best of it, shoo away the bad comments as cavalierly as you can.
Yeah, sure.
But they're still people. Alarmingly, everybody is a human, like much more than you would think. They're just people. They eat, they breathe, they have irritable bowels, and they can't find a place to poop. I mean, it's real.
Well, Scott, you're a very good human in my book.
Thanks, man.
You're one of the exceptional ones. So yeah, we're all human.
Likewise.
Some of us are better humans than others, and you're one of the better ones, my friend.
I appreciate that. You too. And in my eyes, you as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. But I really want you to introduce us to Harry V, and I think you've got him with you.
Yes.
And I want to tell you real quick though, after those first guitar lessons with me, you taught my daughter and I, I kind of got a little bit of a guitar fever too, and I've picked up a few. Nothing as cool as what you've got in your collection, but I do have a guitar that has a name, and it's kind of funny because it sort of rhymes with yours, but in a sense, because I have a guitar. I wanted a black guitar, and so I bought this matte black Johnny Cash Martin.
Okay.
It's got Cash on the neck. It says Cash on the neck.
I love that he did that too.
Yeah. So I that's the one I like to play when I'm playing. And I don't play enough. And I wish I played more, and I wish I played better. But it's fun for me sometimes. I'm never going to be doing it in public in front of people or anything like that. But it's something I do sometimes when I want to relax and I enjoy it. And I called my guitar Mr. Gillingham. And that's a reference to Charlie Gillingham, which is a member of the band Counting Crows.
Yes.
Which is a big passion of mine. And
Absolutely.
So in a sense, this guitar is Charlie G and yours is Harry V. So
man. Well, you know what that means now. We got to get these guitars side by side for a picture, for a photo op.
Yeah. We'd have to do that.
We got to put them side by side. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
That's iconic.
Your guitar is really cool, and it's got this cool, rad red color to it, covered in stickers. It looks like a real rock star guitar. And you're gonna play a little bit for us, right?
Yep, I'm going to try. Here we go. My knee-jerk reaction in the morning is to run wide-eyed toward the sun. And I can't explain why I feel this way. It's an urge I'm afraid can't be undone. Now I move without warning, in case something is on my tail. And I can't explain, but the train is on its way, and I feel as if I'm tied to the rail. But I don't mind tonight. The alignment is right. For the moment, I feel alright. Don't know what tomorrow hides, but for now, all that is out of mind, out of sight. I still love with a vengeance the idea that I could be the one to change. And every spell I said to reanimate the dead could somehow all now be neatly tucked away. But I don't mind tonight. The alignment is right. For the moment I feel alright. Don't know what tomorrow hides, but for now all that is out of mind, out of sight. That's never been played live with the band. I wrote it over the pandemic.
It's on a Rarities album, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's on No Pressure, which was kind of a vault thing. I had so many songs sitting around that didn't make it to an album. That one deserved to be on an album. I didn't have an album that sounded like that. Like I didn't have 9 more songs like Knee Jerk to put out. And I was right in the throes of Broken Transmitter. So everything I wrote, I was giving to Tim and I's project, because we did our first album, Meridians, in 2018, and we wrote it as we were touring with Wizard World. So we focused, every month we would focus on finishing a song, and we released almost the entire album as singles, back to back to back, 10 times over, 11 times over, whatever it was, and then put it on CD at the end. And then we had copies to give away at the Comic-Con. And then the shutdown happened, and we hurried up. And so all of 2019, we were touring on Meridians. The shutdown happens, and we were sitting on our thumbs. We had nothing to do. So we started podcasting, and we started going live stream on Facebook to try to keep interest in the group and keep ourselves sane. And we wrote a whole second record really fast. And one of the songs I wrote that didn't have a Broken Transmitter feel was Knee Jerk. So I produced that one by myself, and it sat around for a while. And there was just no other good songs that sounded like it. So it went on that Rarities record. But I still love it. I'm really proud of that tune. And so when you said that's the one you wanted for your intro, I was like, oh my God, I would love to see that tune get a little time in the sun, because I didn't give it any time in the sun because I didn't have a band that was willing to play that tune as part of the show.
Like I told you, it's perfect for this podcast as a theme because we're having knee-jerk reactions to all kinds of things. And that's sort of the point of this thing, is we're going to talk about our knee-jerk reactions to some live music, to some concerts, to some movies, to some shows that we've watched. We're going to be talking about The White Lotus coming up in another episode. And Scott, I hope you will come back and talk about some nerdy sci-fi stuff with us, because we nerded out over some music today, but we definitely got to have you back to nerd out over some other stuff. I think you're going to come back and talk with us about what might be to some a controversial pick for your favorite Val Kilmer movie, as we mourn the loss of one of our great actors. And we'll talk about that another time.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Scott, for being on the episode today. It's been such a pleasure. Everybody, please find his book on Amazon. Be part of the best-selling crowd that's enjoying it right now. It's called A Guitar Called Harry V and the Cover Band Conundrum by Scott Paris. Look for his music on Spotify and wherever else you listen to music. We listed off a number of the bands he's been in. He's got some solo stuff out there. Go and check that out. Find those starving artist, not so starving artist food reviews that he's done on YouTube. Scott is literally everywhere. You guys, you can't miss him. He's just like a giant star here in the spectrum. of all things. And we're so pleased to have him on the show, and so pleased to partner with him and to have his support for this show as it gets started. And Scott, I'm going to ask you to play us out and play Functional, would you?
Of course. That's probably my best known one.
Another favorite. It's a great song.
Something to change, and I've been in the days waiting on sunshine and rain, just to say tonight I want to be less than a step above functional. Tonight I want to be anything other than cynical, but I don't know. Maybe I'm amazed, like Sir McCartney would say. Whoa, ain't it a shame about everyone except Ray? Even he could say that tonight I want to be less than a thread above imbecile. Tonight I want to be a sentence away from criminal, but I don't know. Tonight I want to be less than a step above functional. Tonight I want to be anything other than cynical. Tonight I want to be less than a thread above imbecile. Tonight I want to be a sentence away from criminal.